Hi, everyone. Welcome, Bruins. Thank you for coming and joining us tonight for Managing a Millennial Workforce. Who's excited to learn how to effectively manage millennials tonight? Yeah. You all need help, right? Okay. I'd like to start off by thanking our alumni who have upgraded their membership to a blue or a gold. They are the ones who make events like tonight's possible. If you are a lifetime member and you're considering upgrading to a gold or a blue membership, please come talk to one of the staff members. We'll be happy to discuss with you where it's best to direct your membership gift and how to make the biggest impact. So tonight, Managing a Millennial Workforce is one of the many in-person events that we have rolling out in the upcoming months in the career-related space. We also launched a virtual series called Bruin Career Insights through YouTube Live, and we feature an expert alumnus who can speak to a particular professional development topic. Our upcoming one next month is about job longevity, which a lot of millennials sometimes don't always commit to, but Nicki will speak more to that. We hope you keep an eye out for these events. You'll see them in your inbox. Please don't delete them. Just take a look, see if you're interested. If you are, great. If you know someone who may be interested in it, pass it along. We also hope you join UCLA1.com. That's UCLAONE.com. It's our online professional development platform for career networking, and it's a great space for you to network with other Bruins. So tonight we're joined by Nicki Klein. She graduated in 2012 with a degree in psychology, and she's going to illuminate this world of mysterious millennials that we don't quite get, and how we can become better at managing young professionals in their 20s and early 30s, and make them assets to our organization and to our mission. So I'll let you take it from here.
Hi, guys. How you guys doing? Good. Excited? Yep. Nervous? So I just want to start by giving you a little bit of background on who I am and why I'm talking to you about millennials. Obviously, I am a millennial myself. I'm pretty much the epitome of the millennial. I graduated UCLA in 2012, as she said, and I changed careers 4 times. I'm a 4-time career changer, which is actually the inspiration for my startup, which I'll talk about in a second. So I graduated and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I tried 4 very different careers. So first I was a genius at the Apple Store, which some people spend their life doing, pays well, it's a good job, and then I went on to manage events for a company and manage a team of people putting on entertainment events. And then I jumped into the stock market. So I worked at JP Morgan, managing over $250 million in assets. And then I became a software engineer. So I actually learned how to code. And I did that for 2 years before I built my company with my co-founder. And what Betagig does is it's going to help you with the typical millennial, obviously, since the idea came from me. We are streamlining job shadowing. So we are creating a try before you buy for careers. So most millennials do this job hopping thing, as we've talked about, as I just demonstrated. And this would be a way to allow them to see a day in the life of that job before they take that path. Similar to like dating before you get married, because now the interview process is similar to more like getting engaged and then married, and then quickly divorced, as you've seen in my case. So this is adding the first date back to the interview process, kind of, and you can see how engaged a person is, if they're interested, and if they even want the job, because a lot of times today we are so desperate to hire somebody and they're so desperate for a job that we take them and then they quickly figure out that they don't like it and they become your least productive employee, right? And then they leave, and then you're stuck there trying to fill the seat again. So that is the idea behind my business, and now I want to talk to you a little bit about millennials. But before I do that, I want to know, I want to hear some things from the audience. So like, what are some words that you guys use to describe millennials or have heard? Just shout them out. If you entitled, okay? Anything else? Short attention span. Good one. Impatient. Multitaskers, a positive one. Whew, we haven't gotten one of those yet. Anything else? Tech savvy, like that one. Another positive one. Unsocial? Not social. Okay, so more introverted. That's probably a truer one. We like to interface with technology more than we like to interface with people. What is the first thing you think of when you think of millennials? Is it like these words, or is it like an iPhone? Like, what is it? You don't know. Anybody have an idea that they want to share? What's the first thing you think of when you think of a millennial? An iPhone. So I said that one. Tech support. That's a good one. Does anybody have any experiences with millennials in the workforce currently that they might want to share?
Just that I work with someone who's really great technically, and I had her help me with technology, but she just wants to just jump through stuff and not do the work and just get kind of pick my brain. Just kind of I feel like
Okay.
you're supposed to pick my brain and then leave.
Okay, that's a really good insight. We're going to talk about that today. Anybody else? Yes.
The millennials that work with me are very hard workers. What I notice is that they do have a very good sense of work-life balance. So they come in and they work. But unlike some of those of us who will just continue to work and work and work and work and work, they're like, time to go, see ya. And that's what they do.
Interesting. Different take. Could be the way that it works at your company, or they're not interested in the job. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yes.
I found them to be very confident,
Yeah.
very comfortable speaking up, and they have a lot of opinion and perspective.
Okay.
Try to share.
Could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Same thing, very intelligent, but kind of like what you shared, they have no problem saying a lot.
True. Not to say that I'm not an extremely hard worker. Yes. No, you didn't have a question.
We are not as stable as the older stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Good insight.
Jumping from
Jumping, right. Not loyal. Good insight. Yes.
We have two, and I work in a nonprofit, and I feel like they're still searching. Like, they might not be loyal because they'll work hard, but they're not necessarily committed.
Another great insight. Great insight. Yeah.
Work hard.
Well, we're going to talk about how to retain them, so we'll get there. Sorry about that. Does anyone want to share what their experience was like when they entered the workforce, as like a comparison of like how what you did or what kind of things you experienced when you entered the workforce?
First, I'm much older than you. So,
Valid.
Yeah. And so back when we first got out of college, we didn't have cell phones. Well, we did, but very few people had them.
Right.
And we didn't have call blocking like we have today. We didn't have caller ID. And so we were both in sales, straight out of college, straight into financial services. You were talking about
Yeah.
going into stock.
Totally.
So 26 years later, I'm still in business. We're both 26 years in the business. And I would say we didn't rely so much on the instant gratification. I think today millennials are looking for searching for instant gratification that we didn't have. And I think that perhaps we didn't know better. That's why we just stuck it out.
Yep. Raised differently could be a different way to say it.
We didn't have the options that they wanted.
We have some failed parenting strategies on our hands, so yes.
So I feel like when I entered the workforce, I wasn't very confident. I felt like I was trying to prove myself to my employers,
Right.
prove my worth. And with the millennials I supervise, I feel like they come in thinking they're already great, and so there's less of that feeling.
Again, failed parenting. We were told we were special from a young age. So, okay, so that was a great little intro. Let me know where you guys are. So, I think the first thing we should talk about is who are the millennial generation. I think that we are very commonly confused with actually Generation Z, which is the one below us. Generation Z has not entered the workforce yet. Just to let you know, they're the Snapchat generation, for sure. And they're typically actually called iGen because they were, when they were born, all of these things came out, like the iPod and the iPhone and the everything. So the millennials actually go from 1980 to 1996. So they're typically roughly around the ages of 22 to 37 right now. Again, most commonly confused with Generation Z. Generation Z is all 21 right now, so they all haven't graduated from college. They're about to enter the workforce in a year and a half, so we'll have to learn how to work with them as well. They're probably going to be more similar to millennials, but I just wanted to clarify who we're talking about here, just so that we all know we're on the same page. Because again, we are commonly confused with the one right below us. You want to change your answer? So millennials right now are 22 to 37. The oldest millennial is 37 right now. So Z, the oldest generation Z is 21 right now. That generation is still happening. It hasn't been closed yet. So it's still ongoing. But the oldest generation Z would be a 21-year-old junior in college, right? Not yet entered the workforce. So let's talk about these key generational differences that we've kind of briefly talked about before. So the number one is going to be our use of technology, right? So really, we're not actually lazy. We've just been given technology by previous generations and we know how to leverage it. That's the reality. Let me give you some examples of this. So think about a father and their son. So we can even go back to like my dad, right? So when my dad was a kid, his dad would ask him to change the channel, and he would say, son, can you get up and turn the dial on the TV to change the channel for me, right? And he would get up and do it. And so then my dad grows up and becomes a dad, and he turns to me and he's like, Nikki, can you change the channel? Can you go up there and turn the dial? And I look at him and I'm like, Dad, you have a remote in your hands. You could just flip the channel. And instead of saying, thanks so much for teaching me how to use this great piece of technology that we have, he instead gives me a lesson or a lecture on the hard work and listening skills and not talking back, right? And then proceeds to tell me, go up there and change the dial. At which point I get up and realize that there's no dial on the TV for me to turn. And I don't know what to do, right? This is the miscommunication between the hiring manager or the boss and the millennial right there. Like that is exactly it, right? Your boss asks you to do something and the millennial tries to leverage technology to do it, and the boss is like, that's not the way we do things. We need to do it in a more traditional way. That's gonna take 50 hours longer. And then the person's like, but we don't do things like that anymore. Like, how does that work? So it's this constant miscommunication that's happening. While also, while every millennial can easily be seen as like an oversharing Kardashian, posting vacation photos to your Facebook isn't as obnoxious as the 1960s couples that used to trap people in their home to watch their vacation videos, right? Didn't that happen? Like, whatever, slideshows. So the point is, posting my vacation photos to Facebook is so much less obnoxious than me trapping someone in my home and forcing them to see my videos. It's true, because not everybody has to look at my my pictures on Facebook. They don't. They can scroll right through. So, for example, somebody that I actually really respect named Scott Hess, he says, can you imagine if the boomers had YouTube, how narcissistic they would have seemed? Right? It's true. You could think about things like, you can think about Instagram. Now, if they had it, you would have seen people playing in the mud at Woodstock all the time. The whole thing would have been filled with it, right? So we're not that different, right? We're just leveraging technology in a different way. So the next thing, our apparent lack of direction. So we talked about this as a group. Some of you mentioned they don't seem loyal. How do I get them to stay? Those kinds of things. So this is a really good one, and this kind of goes into the failed parenting. So previous generations were told, here's what you're gonna do with the rest of your life. You're gonna take over your dad's business. You're gonna be a lawyer. Here's how you make money. Like one path, right? Very simple. My generation was told, find what you love. I think I heard my mom say 1,000 times as a little kid, Nikki, if you find a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So what do you think I did when I got to the workforce? I sought to find something that I loved. After hearing my mom say that so many times as a kid, that I thought was like my option. Like that's what I thought that the world was gonna, help me figure out, only to realize that that's not the way the world works. Hence the reason for my company to help millennials figure it out, because there really is no way to do that in today's world. So, and then, you have this other concept where professional and personal lives used to be cleanly separate, and at that point a paycheck was enough. But now the erosion between work and play has created an expectation for a millennial to derive a sense of purpose from their job. So work is life, and purpose and development drive this generation, because to them, it's one and the same now. Like, there's no separation between their job and their life. So this is true. Again, we have a lot of opportunities, right? And so this is something that you guys need to change your mindset on. Corporations need millennials, but millennials don't actually need you, because there are so many ways now that one can make money. Let's think about it. They can make money online. They can freelance. I did it. You can now sign up for Uber and become a driver and focus on your interests and passions and have these flexible hours and make a living, right? There's a million of these kinds of things. There's Handy, there's Thumbtack, there's Gigster. There's so many ways now where I can use my skills and derive my own sense of flexible schedule and make money online and not go work for a big corporation. So the key here is that she who cares less wins. So the same ideology that's used in dating, we can apply here, right? Like the girl that doesn't care at all usually gets the guy, right? Like the one that's least interested. And so that's an important thing to note, is that basically if you care less, that you might attract more millennials, interestingly enough, which is totally insane, but that's the psychology of the world. The next thing to note on this is that don't mistake our flightiness for a lack of commitment. We're just dissatisfied. So 55% of all millennials surveyed reported being unhappy with their job. This is actually 5 points higher than Generation X, 7 points higher than boomers, and 14 points higher than traditionalists. So we are the most dissatisfied with our work of all of the generations that have come before us. But it's not that we won't commit. When I commit to something, I give it 100%. You best believe that. Like, I went to UCLA. I was insanely dedicated in high school and in college. And every job that I took, I was really committed to, but I was unhappy. So it's really not that I'm not committed or that I can't commit to a job. It's that I'm dissatisfied. Did you have a question?
Yeah, is it the result of misaligned expectations?
Yes. So what we talked about on the previous slide, where previous generations were told this is how the world works, and then we were told figure out what you love. That's just failed parenting. That's just no other way to tell you that. But the fact that our mindset of how the world works is different in that sense. So yes.
Have the older set of that generation adjusted at all? Is there a difference between the youngest?
Like the 22-year-old versus the 37-year-old?
Has there been a psychological adjustment as they've aged into the workforce and experienced?
Probably. I would assume that the older set of the generation has actually stayed in their job, but they're complacent. So they're probably not as productive as an employee that's like super motivated and passionate, because they all belong to the same like mindset. Like every millennial you ask mostly has the same mindset. So yeah, they've probably adjusted, but their adjustment has just been like, oh, I'll stay here and I'll just be unhappy forever.
Right, that's not, but I was actually anticipating you might recalibrate their expectations based on the environment.
No, I don't think that's happened. I mean, I'm happy to like do more research and look that up with you, but I don't believe that that's the case based on my research. Yes? Gen Z or millennials.
Ever since they've been noticing the world, there have been a lot fewer jobs for them.
That's also true. Valid point.
Jobs. I mean,
Yes.
the economy tanked in 2005, right? And so kids who are born in 95 on the lower end of their thing, it'll be interesting to see.
I mean, when I graduated high school, we were in a recession. So if I wanted to go get a job, that was not happening. We were still kind of coming out of a recession when I graduated from college. It was very difficult to find a job.
Discussion of the last 4 or more years
Right.
about what college is for and so
Yes. So, I mean, this actually, some of your questions lead into my next slide, which is, are we really that different? We're actually pretty similar to our parents and grandparents. We want roughly the same things. Regardless of when we were born, we want to be given interesting work to do. We want to be rewarded on the basis of our contributions, and we want to be given the chance to work hard and get ahead. And so this is going to sound funny, but the baby boomers were the first me generation. Every generation after has been called the me generation. So we all seem narcissistic, but it's been, goes all the way back to the boomers. So you want to call us the me generation? Well, so was the baby boomers, so was Gen X. again, we're really not that different from our parents and our grandparents. As you can see, it's the same thing, just people have forgotten since it was so long ago that these things were said. So, question of the day, how can you attract and hire them? Number one thing is going to be transparency and authenticity. They respect that more than anything. So that is part of the, what we're doing. We're allowing people to job shadow, and a company that is on our platform is giving the job seeker transparency right from the gate. This is what the job is. Do you want this? If you don't want this, the company is saving time and money because they would have spent, again, all that money training them and onboarding them just to then be paying for their empty seat after they left. And so transparency and authenticity in every shape and form is really important to attracting millennials and hiring them.
And if they advise in this situation, how can we trust them? We bring them, we teach them, and we leave. What is the situation right now? What do you suggest to do?
Well, so if you actually bring them on a job shadow and you tell them what the day in the life of that job is going to be like, and they don't want it, again, they saved you that time of training them and then they left. Instead of bringing them on, training them for like 2 months and then them leaving, if they get to see a day in the life, they're like, oh, I either am really excited about this or I'm really not. And if I'm really not, that's saving you money. That's saving you time, saving you effort. So that's transparency and authenticity. So don't send out like a blast that says we're hiring. Instead, create a social media presence online that talks about what you do as a company and your culture and like posting things like that. So there's a company I know called Muse in a similar space as me. And what Muse does is they actually come to your company and they take a video. They do like a walkthrough job shadow on video, basically. So it's like a virtual job shadow. And then they post these videos online so you can see what it's like to work at like Google or whatever it is. And then Google or the company that was filmed can actually take that video and post it on their social media. So you can, tell people what it's like to work at your company and be transparent that way if like job shadowing is not an interest of yours. So this is another one. So there's a common misperception that like only startups can be progressive when it comes to the hiring process. False. Change your interview process. A lot of companies are already doing it. So I can give you some examples. So Goldman Sachs, they are doing video interviewing now. Deloitte actually hides the university of the applicant to be more fair. And then KPMG has taken their interview process from weeks to days. So a millennial can actually find out within 1 to 2 days whether or not they got the job. So millennials are very efficient and productive, and they don't want to waste time. And that's commonly confused for this instant gratification that we desire. It's really the desire to be extremely efficient and productive. Interestingly enough, I'm probably one of the most efficient people. Before I created this company, I created an efficiency app that was based on doing my chores in a very efficient way. So that is really where that comes from. Right, millennials are time sensitive, yes.
So what about the jobs that are just jobs? Because everything you mentioned is a high-level professional career.
What's an example of a job that you're talking about?
Beverly Hills, where a lot of our society are just jobs picking up the phone.
Well, right. But if that's so I would sit for that if what you do as a company is interesting to me and there's room for development and advancement. Like if I can learn things and there's a possible like promotion in the future, or I'm trying to go into that role in the future, like I would easily sit for that.
Okay, but what if you're not college educated?
Well, there a lot of people are not college educated now, so that's legitimate. So what would stop somebody that's not college educated from moving ahead and driving forward?
I'm just trying to understand if what you're really looking at is the professional career.
I'm talking about like all jobs. I don't know which kind of jobs you're talking about, but the things that I'm saying can be done at every single office. Being transparent and authentic with your employees, changing your hiring process, having a social media presence. None of these things are specific to one type of industry or job. They're just general recommendations, and most of them you can do. If there's something that you can't do based on your industry, like eliminate that one. But I just gave you like 7 things that you could try to attract and hire millennials. What type of job is it that you're talking about specifically? Billing. So like I have plenty of friends going into like accounting or interested in like finance or bookkeeping, those kinds of things. Yeah, you could turn that into a career. Like if I was really interested in being an accountant or a bookkeeper, I would want to work for somebody where I did the billing and I did those kinds of things, and I actually did that. One of my careers, the events one, I did all of the accounting and bookkeeping for the company. Not my forte. I have friends, totally their thing. Loved it, obsessed with it. Somewhere where they can even learn even more and grow and advance, super interested in coming to work for you. Not a chance that they wouldn't be. Make sense? Yes. Okay. The last thing is flexibility. So, can you go back one? Yeah, that's okay. You can go to the next picture. So, flexibility in your hours. This is like a really important one that I do at my company with my employees. So, I have like a team of 7 right now working for me. And something that I think is really important to know is that not everybody's productive hours are the same. So the hours of the day that you're productive are different from the hours of the day that you're productive are different from, and so on, right? Like I know my productive hours, I'm pretty self-aware, and I know that after 12 p.m. I just kick into high gear for whatever reason. But if you have me in there at 9 a.m., you know, from 9 to 12, I just really wasn't that productive. Like I was trying to be, but like my brain just didn't turn on yet. And then something happens at noon where suddenly a light bulb goes off, and I will work all the way till 3 in the morning for you. But from 9 to 12, if you had me in there, like I probably wasn't doing a lot. So the ability to give your employees flexible hours not only helps their productivity, but also helps like their happiness and like their ability to be attracted to the job.
What do you mean by
Flexible hours. So like what I tell my employees is like, you know the hours that you're productive better than I do. So come in at the times that you feel the most productive. So I have, you know, engineers that will come in from like 11 to 8, or actually they work longer than that. So part of what this says is like when you give flexible hours, they actually end up working more hours than the ones set. So to think that the Monday through Friday 9 to 6 is the most productive thing, well, it's not. Studies have been shown that that's not the case at all. I mean, I'm happy to share my research with you, but it's false. And let me just tell you, obviously I run a startup, and we work long hours, and my employees work harder than anyone I've ever seen because I give them the ability to come in when they're, you know, I have the employees that love the mornings. They want to come in at 6 a.m., this one, 6 a.m. every day. And then I have the employees that are like, I can't work in the morning. It doesn't work for me. My brain's not working. So they come in, you know, 11, 12, and then they stay late. It's the flexible hours, and there's definitely an overlap, right? So I still create that work culture and that like community where, you know, the coworkers still are friends and know each other because the hours overlap, right? But they work on their own hours. So 6 to 2 or 3 or whatever, whenever she leaves, but 6 a.m. in there, that's her thing. I'm not in there at 6, by all means. I just told you I do my best work after noon. So that's just another thing that you can do to be more attractive. So this is, by the way, a quote from Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's like a famous investor in like really large companies like Uber, Twitter, Snapchat, Venmo, and this is like something that he said, and I find it to be very true. So this is going to be really interesting. So this is a chart of what different generations look for when applying for a job. Notice that the orange dots are millennials and the blue dots are baby boomers, and notice that they're not that far apart. They're pretty similar. The things that we talked about, opportunity to learn and grow, quality of a manager, quality of the management, interest in the type of work. They're very similar. So again, we're really not that different as you might not think. How can you retain them? Yeah, totally. No, it's not. But also look where the orange dot is, so they rated it almost the same.
I mean, I found that perks in the workplace is a real...
I don't think so. I don't believe in perks in the workplace. Like, I don't buy free food for my employees. Again, I give them autonomy, which is what I think everybody really wants, and they create their own hours. I don't provide like the fun perks like a a pool table or snacks or whatever. First of all, if there was a pool table there, I guarantee you I'd never play it. I'd always be working. Even if I was working for somebody, when do I have time to do that? That's distracting to me. I want to finish my work. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think it's all also relative. So this is going to be extremely important. And as a millennial, I'd say that, yeah, the opportunity to learn and grow is way more important than a fun place to work. But I think you still get to have that culture in the office. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know.
I mean, we create fun without spending money to do it. Like, we laugh, we play, like, we make jokes, like, we mess around.
We hear about a lot of the digital companies, right, that is attracting a lot of the millennials. A big part of that is the environment. So,
Right.
you know, having frozen yogurt available and, you know, beer on tap and snacks all the
I don't,
time.
and I have like 7 millennials working for me. I don't do any of those things.
I mean, I'm just saying that that's something.
Right. It's totally legitimate. I think it has more to do with actually the workplace community of it and not the fun perks of, like, think about a startup where you all sit at a table and you work together and it's kind of fun. Like, the cubicle is like one of the least productive environments in these times. Like, nobody likes the cubicle. It's lonely, it's terrible, it's a waste of time because you're constantly getting up from your desk to go talk to so-and-so about whatever it is. So that kind of environment is very interesting to us. It doesn't necessarily have to have all the expensive perks, in my opinion, because again, I was able to attract them. I mean, like, I get like a lot of resumes every day, and I don't offer any of those things.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Regarding compensation. In our line of work, we pay on commission. I found it's tough to get, at least in my experience, to get a millennial to buy into that delayed gratification, that it takes a long time to make money, in particular in a commission type environment. They're looking for that I guess that base, or they're looking for that.
The base salary to live off of.
Security. In your opinion, do you see that as they get older, are they going to become more, are we going to have an easier time in bringing them into that environment?
So I would actually say the opposite, that they're willing to take zero job security and measly salaries if they have, you know, a manager that's like driving their development, somebody that's coaching them, you know, the ability to grow in the company and advance and like potentially get a higher salary at one point. Because, I mean, do I pay really high salaries?
No.
Probably not, let's be honest. I'm a startup. Yeah.
But the salary piece, the title piece.
I mean, really, it's all about the opportunity for advancement. So if they know that they can work hard and get ahead, that's going to be way more important to them than the salary. So I can give you the title wasn't important to me. I can give you an example. When I became a software engineer, I got 2 job offers. One from a large, known corporation at a really high-paying salary with a great title. The other one from a small company, not a startup, just a small company that had been around for like 15 years, much lower salary, like 15K of a difference. But my boss, I met him several times. He really seemed like my development was really important and he wanted to grow me as an engineer, and the team was great and they were all willing to like help me out anytime. And I got that feeling from 2 interviews versus the 3 interviews I did for the corporation. The offer came on the same day within an hour of each other. Which one did I take? The lower one. And I had the greatest time of my life. And I would have taken the lower one again and again and again, not caring that that higher salary or that greater title was better. I didn't care. I wanted the chance to learn and grow, and I knew that this opportunity was going to give that to me, not this one. I mean, you're talking about the difference between like 75K and 60K. So I mean, but for a 23-year-old, 75K sounds like a lot of money, and 60K doesn't. It's different to me. I mean, it's going to be different to me. 75K sounded like a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah, I did. But I wasn't even interested in the money aspect, to be honest. Like, I knew that like if I worked really hard, I might be able to get more money, but I also knew that it was a smaller company, and regardless of how hard I worked, I was still going to be paid less than the big corporation just because they had less money, because they're a smaller company. But I was more interested in the growth and development. And, you know, my boss was like, he was such a great person in that even though I had all these outside passions and interests to like grow my own company, he furthered them. He didn't care if it meant me leaving. Like, I worked twice as hard for him as I would have worked for anybody else, because he would ask me about my other interests, and like he would give me advice, and he didn't care that like maybe that meant I wasn't going to work for him one day. He really wanted to grow my skills as a person, not just my engineering skills, but like. Well, I worked for him longer than anybody else has. Yeah.
Then she's going to get her inspiration to be a billionaire. Then she's going to go get the coding experience. And then she's going to file patent and build the thing. And, you know, about 3 years later, even though I spent all this time building genuine human relationships as a mentor, professional
Yeah.
source of, you know, compensation and
Right.
the general world perspective and learning access, resources, relationships, know-how, they're going to leave. So the question is, how do you retain them? So I'm really interested in that.
Right, we're getting to that. That's the next slide. Okay, so as we discussed, they're probably not the most loyal generation. Like about half of all millennials say they're expecting to leave their job within 2 years. So you're right. So how can we keep them loyal? What can we do? There's several things that we actually can do. So we can do promotions based on the quality of the work, not the length of time. So there's a lot of employers out there who say like, oh, you'd only get promoted if you've worked here for a certain amount of time. Okay, throw that one away. If this person is super like hardworking and their quality of work is awesome, why do you have to wait to promote them? Why do that? Don't do that. For example, that's not something that would keep them loyal. That's something that would send them packing. The second thing is millennials are very interested in social good. So if you're
What do you promote me, like by money or by title or both?
both. They're very interested in social good. So if your company is doing something to make an impact on the world, like, you know, donating to an environmental cause, or, you know, maybe we can use Tom's as a good example, right? Tom's as a whole, as a company, does an impact for social good, has an impact for social good. So if they feel like either they're making an impact or the company is making an impact, they're much more likely to stay, whatever that means. And again, social good is very important to them. So they want to feel like they're changing the world in some way, or like that the company as a whole is doing something good for the world. And then again, flexibility. We talked about that a lot, but flexible hours can keep them there much longer than you would expect. Incentives. So this one goes to like stipends for paying off student loans. So the millennial generation is the most educated generation in the history of all of the generations. What this means is that they're also the deepest in debt for their education. So if you have some incentive where you can help pay off their student loans, they're going to stay a long time. You better believe that.
Can I ask a question? So we're used to hearing words like profit sharing, deferred compensation, 5-year vesting, 10-year vesting. Are those buzzwords? Are you saying that if you heard the words pay off your
Student loan
over 5 years versus deferred comp, you're saying you would be more motivated by
Super.
Really?
Yeah. There's a startup that actually does that. They help work with companies to offer that service to their employees. I forget the exact name of it, but I'm sure you can Google it. They are in Chicago right now. I don't know if they've expanded, but they will actually help you offer that to your employees as a service, and they'll arrange the whole thing and make it easy for you. Yeah, it's very true. So, I'm sorry?
That's a really good window into the zeitgeist of the generation.
Right.
If they relate more to their personal debt than thinking future. And you said that typically they say they expect to stay in a job for 2 years. What do they actually do? What's the actual retention number for how many?
It's about like somewhere between 1 to 2 years, but it's a lot less than, it's a lot what?
Even the 37-year-olds are flipping every couple of years?
Yeah.
Educating them and
The generation is being surveyed on a whole, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly where these pieces are, probably more so than others. My guess would be like it's somewhere in the middle and not so much on the ends of the spectrum.
what's the 2 years?
Right. I understand that. So yeah, there's obviously things that you can do to keep them loyal. One of the next things I was going to say was create like a better workplace environment. So cubicles versus like a community, setting is something that would retain a millennial for longer. And then transparency, like millennials are so much more engaged and committed when they know why you made a decision, instead of just you reported that a decision was made and it just comes down to them and they have to effectively do something else. They don't want to work like that. They want to leave. If they know, like, if you're keeping them in the loop, like, oh, I made this big major decision and now we're all going to do X, Y, and Z, and then you're going to say, and I did it because of the following 3 reasons, they're so much more into that. And they're like, oh, okay, great, then we're going to be on board. But if you were just like, yep, this decision is happening, and then you just walk away, like, probably not going to get a lot of retention on that one. Probably going to be more like, okay, I need to find my next job. Right. Yes.
Quick question. Do you have any research on like exit interview rationale? So like why millennials tend to leave, like often reasons with like dissatisfaction with their boss or lack of opportunities or anything like that you have?
It would just be all the opposites of like basically some of the things that I said. So right, like lack of advancement. That's definitely why I left a few of my jobs. Inability to get a promotion or raise your pay. No learning. Nobody's teaching me anything. I don't know how to like advance my career in this field because there's no growth here. So that would be how I felt at JP Morgan. Do your job, and then they just walked away. Like there was no like, well, let me show you how to do the next 5 things that like maybe you would do if you got to this point, right? And then what would be another one? Just, like overall dissatisfaction. What did you say? Bad management. Quality of your manager and management in general are super important things.
Top 2 or 3 things that makes great managers bad managers from a
So mentorship, like transparency, helping me develop my skills, be it in the thing that we're doing or maybe even teaching me something that I didn't know outside of it. More like a coach. So let's go to the next slide, actually. So this is the change in leadership. Previously people cared about a paycheck. Again, we're way more interested in our purpose. Previously it was satisfaction. Now it's my development. My boss was my boss before. Now I want it to be my coach. Annual review, like, oh my God, big change here, right? I don't want that one time a year that I hear how I'm doing. I want to know all the time, am I improving? Am I doing something wrong? What's happening? Keep me updated. Let me know, because I want to be the best worker that I can for you. And if you're not telling me every day or telling me when I do something wrong, and you're just telling me in the annual review that I didn't get a promotion because I suck, that's not going to work for me. Right? And then we consider our jobs to be our lives. So this slide really shows the major changes that have gone on as far as like millennials in the workforce. Yes? I can. I was also going to send you guys all the links too of like where I pulled some stuff that didn't come from my head.
My weakness, my strength, what do you mean?
Like they want to focus on where they're strong and then they want to like go after it.
Like you tell them, instead of saying you're weak at this, and this, and you're strong at that.
You're really good at these 3 things. Like you should focus on them. Positive reinforcement. Yes. Okay, so how can you support the ones that you currently already have hired? So according to a Gallup poll, the top 5 things that they rank as being important to them are opportunities to learn and grow, quality of their manager, quality of the management in general, interest in the type of work, and then opportunities for advancement. So pretty much everything that we've previously talked about is super important to them. Keeping in mind that, again, the measly paycheck or the 0 job security is not something that they care about. It's more if you're paying attention to their contribution to the company and opportunity for advancement and ability to create long-lasting relationships with their colleagues. Ultimately, they want the same things that previous generations want, which is schedule control, meaningful work relationships, choice of projects, and the ability to learn, so learning opportunities. And now, we're gonna have a fun little activity. So we're gonna do like, yes. Yeah. Previous slide, go back.
That's like the stuff with me, you have the my life piece of it. Because one, and clarification question, one of the things that I do appreciate about millennials is that there seems to be a better work-life balance kind of piece. So I guess I'm just confused by seeing that.
So I mean, I see the opposite, where I see that, so you know, what's happened is there's been erosion between work and play, and it's been kind of combined, and because of this, millennials expect to derive a sense of purpose from their jobs. So if they're not deriving a sense of purpose from their jobs, they're probably gonna show up from 9 to 5 and bail, right? Because they don't care. But if they do feel like they're getting purpose from their jobs, then work and play are merged, and work is life, and they will spend copious amounts of hours working for you without a care.
But we would, what you just said, that means clarifying.
Right.
Merging, but we might not have thought about merging.
Yes.
Is this a uniquely American mindset or is it worldwide definition?
That is a really good question. American, mostly Western world. Mostly, yeah, mostly Western world, probably.
In Asia, if you don't change your job every couple of years, there is
Really?
something wrong with it.
That's an interesting one.
That you're
It's
not
probably more
growing,
American.
you're not growing, but that's not necessarily a millennial standpoint, and that's the professional culture.
I don't think millennials really want that. I think that they want these things that I've discussed, and they're willing to stay for them. I mean, I know I will be, like I am, willing to stay if I feel that I have all these things. The only reason that I left my last job, who I talk about, like I loved that boss, is not because I was unhappy, but because I realized that I could actually help everybody else with this company. Otherwise, I never would have done this. Starting a company is extremely difficult. Nonetheless, I'm a female, which makes it 10 times harder, especially a tech company. And it's been an extremely difficult year in the past. And I mean, I just raised $1.5 million, which is super exciting. But you know, there's no way I ever would have said that I was going to do this if I hadn't just realized that I have an opportunity to help the rest of my generation figure it out because of the painstaking thing that I did. And an easy solution to fix that would have been the ability to job shadow those jobs, and I would have known I didn't want to go there. And then I could have job shadowed my last job, and I would have been like, oh, I definitely want to work here. And I send people there all the time, actually. So, yeah, okay, so we're gonna play a little fun game. Some of these questions are like quiz questions, and some of them are like more subjective. So, raise your hand if you would like to answer. So the first one is, so the questions that you typically ask as a hiring manager, how do you think a millennial would respond? And so these are the following questions. What's your biggest weakness? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What makes you qualified for this position? How do you make employees feel valued? All those kinds of questions. How do you think a millennial would respond to that? Anyone? Yes? Okay, so the actual truth to this question is that they would tell you exactly what you wanted to hear because they find these questions a waste of time. Yeah, they would come up with a response that you know, makes it sound like you wanted to hear it or whatever it is that, you know, that's what they would do. 'Cause, yeah, they would basically respond in a way that you would want to hear. So not a legitimate question to ask them, basically. What are some things that millennials care about in their job? We've talked about this a lot. You can shout them out. Social cause. Purpose. Transparency. Flexibility.
We want to learn your 30 years experience in 2 years.
That's a good one.
I just thought about this. I hired a millennial. You were with me when I did this. This is 7 years ago. I hired this millennial, and I asked her to put together a business plan for me. And the next day, she came with the most phenomenal business plan I've ever seen in my life. And I said, I'm just blown away. She goes, oh, it took me 10 minutes to do it. And I said, do you even believe this? She goes, I don't even know how to what I wanted.
Yeah.
And there was absolutely zero passion. It took me 10 minutes to do it.
Not interested in whatever line of work that you were doing, but wanted to do the job for whatever, like,
She just gave me what I wanted.
she gave you what you wanted, yeah.
Got fired like three months later.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay, so does anyone want to share how they hire now and how they might change the interview process after this workshop? Does anyone want to share the way that they currently hire and how they might change the process after this workshop? What did you say?
I'm definitely going to be incorporating shadowing.
Awesome.
What is the difference between shadowing and
Interning. So interning is like when you actually hire somebody to intern and do that job. The difference is job shadowing is a short-term commitment. So you bring them in for 1 to 3 to 5 days, and then if they don't want to be there, they're out. Job shadowing is also observing. So you can ask them to do things, and they can do that if they want to, but they're not required to, where if they're an intern, you're paying them a salary and they have to do the work. And then also, as in terms of like the experience that they're getting, an intern is mostly doing things like making copies and getting coffee and like, you know, they're not always like seeing exactly what it is that you're doing and learning because you're always sending them off to do some miscellaneous menial task. So a job shadow allows them to actually see what does Ron do every day? What does he do? What is a day in his life like? Do I want to be him one day? What do I do to get there? How do I get there? Well, you're going to probably say, yeah, you do that receptionist job for 5 years and then maybe you can come into this job or whatever it is. But they're much more likely to be like, oh, I know how to get there now. And they're going to do that menial task for however long to be able to be you. Yes?
I misunderstood what shadowing is. I thought shadowing was shadowing the person whose job they're going to be filling.
Potentially, yeah. So a lot of my clients will use it to hire out of it. So they'll, accept job shadow requests and the people will come in to shadow the job. And then they'll ask them to come back for an interview. But if the person says no, you just saved yourself, time and money. If the person says yes, you can totally hire them and, and you've already seen kind of what they're like.
In a successful office environment or work environment, when you promote from within and you still have that employee to train the person who's replacing them. That's the person who would be shadowed.
True. So yeah.
So that's what you're getting, like it or lump it. If you don't want it,
Right. So the
you want to shadow the boss and say that's where I want to be someday, because that just, to me, just buys right into the misaligned expectations.
Well, so, as far as shadowing goes, you can offer it to any position that you like. I was just giving him an example.
Right, but I'm trying to understand how it works and where the benefit would be, and this has really brought me back to, I had a very unusual integration in the workforce in that I started working as a kid in a very unusual work environment where I was just thrown into the deep end of a lot of different things and I learned a ton. But when I went out in the workforce after college, I temped because I wanted to try something different. So I knew how to type, and I went and I was a receptionist and secretary, and I worked for Occidental Petroleum, super fun remediation. I did everything. I had so many different types of business experience. It helped me craft what do I want to do with my career, where do I want to put my long-term effort. And so shadowing is the first time I've actually heard something that would at least touch on that, where they get a taste of
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
and I don't know if there's any way to do it so that it creates a more sticky relationship. Because I think that's what we're all getting out of this, is that
Right.
that stickiness is very hard to achieve with this generation.
Well, if the person knows exactly what they're getting themselves into and they have a really clear picture, they're much more likely to stay. Most people, what happens is that they get into a job and then they figure out 3 days later that they hate it. So the actual statistic on that is that 70% of people look for a new job within 90 days of being hired. And that's not just millennials, that's everyone. 70% of people look for a new job within the first 3 months of being hired. Imagine if they were able to see what the job was like before even going down the interview process.
When somebody's shadowing, are they typically paid for that time, or is that volunteer time?
They're not paid, no. But the shadow can be as little as 3 hours. It doesn't have to be a full day. Also, you can have people shadowing in different departments so as not to disturb the entire workforce. But you should also know that somebody being observed is like 10 times more productive, right? Because they're not on Facebook or the other things on the internet, right? When you're being observed, you are like on your stuff, right? You're like, okay, someone's watching me.
I think they get to know the other people. I mean, I have a millennial daughter who quit actually a job at UCLA after within 90 days because she just
There it is.
didn't have her people. Like she didn't relate to anybody she was working with. She really felt she was in the wrong place.
So a job shadow.
At the time, I felt sorry for her.
Yeah.
And grateful I was not her boss.
A job shadow would have
Mother wanted to kick her ass.
a job shadow would have allowed her to meet all the people in the office before even taking the job. She would have known.
I could see how that would be helpful. A little idea of who you're working with, and is somebody going to smile at you? Is it going to be kind of fun?
You can also do something like internal job shadowing. So maybe you're not doing external job shadowing for the boss's role, but like maybe you see an employee that's super interested and then you do an internal like half of a day job shadow so they get to see what your day is like because you do promote from within. I agree with that. And you wanted them to know what the job is like. So maybe then they don't leave to go take something higher, but they stay to take something higher with you. That's another way you can offer job shadowing within your company. No problem. Okay, so another question. So when hiring a millennial, is the company interviewing the candidate, or is the candidate interviewing the company, or is it both? Both. Good answer. What does transparency mean to you guys? Like, what are some examples of how you can be transparent with your employees?
Not leaving information backward, and not just about decisions necessarily, but promotions, people leaving,
Yeah.
that they trust that they will hear it from you first,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll hear it, well, perhaps with spin and legitimate explanation of what circumstances are so they don't feel the way that they.
Valid.
How much transparency do they want about personal issues with work? Like, I'm going through divorce, so I'm not fine.
I think it's more about company decisions and movements, and less about like if you're like a friend, not if you're like someone that you'd like. I mean, if you're their boss and you're leaving for 6 months, maybe they're gonna want to know why, but you don't have to give all the details if you don't feel comfortable. But it's more like company decisions. Like, we decided that we are going to eat lunch together on Fridays. Well, they want to know why. Why'd you make that decision? Yes. Oh, okay. So we got to wrap up, but I think I have like one more slide, which basically just says that change is not an option, but it's a necessity. Millennials will make up the majority of the workforce in just 5 years. They'll actually be 75% of the workforce in 2025. So we need to act fast. We need to make changes. And another study said that 31% of people are actually going to retire this year. So if we don't figure out how to hire millennials, we're in a bit of a pickle. That is the end of my presentation. And then questions, comments, concerns, but a lot of them, yeah.
What if you're in this situation where a millennial is now your boss?
Okay, so this is a good question. So I've actually seen a few studies saying that millennials are actually really good for leadership roles, and we should be sprucing them up for that. They're actually better than Generation X, because Generation X tends to be more narcissistic and less, willing to be a leader and do the things that a leader needs to do to function. So actually grooming a millennial for a leadership position is a wise thing to do, because we've been groomed for it for whatever reason our whole lives, and Generation X is not as good as it. I read a whole research study about the difference between why we need to get millennials faster to the boss roles and surpass Gen X because they're problematic, interestingly enough.
Okay, but now the millennial's the boss, now what?
Yeah.
They want all that wonderful stuff from us, and we also be like, I want a better environment, and I would like you to speak more to my needs.
Well, if they're the boss,
And I would like to also have a fun, no cubicle for me.
if they're the boss, they're probably not going anywhere, nor did you have to attract them or hire them. So,
But she has to work, we have to work.
Monet, what am I like as a boss? There you go. What?
I think millennials are already influencing these things because that's what they want, so they have not tested their
Yes. Would you say that I do that as your boss? Yes.
So give me an answer right here. I hired one of my technical designers. She's 27 years old and she knows how to do tech tags and everything. The second day I go in the room and I see she puts the
Headphones in.
and she listens and she had to do very technical job in the computer. And when I asked, that's the music, right? She said, no, that's not the music, that's the news. I listen to the news. And I said to her, listen, this job is a lot of measurements and this and that. How can you focus in the same time for both jobs? I said, I can take care of it.
Multitasking.
And when I said no, she said, oh, I don't want to work for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, first of all, did you even see her work after she came back and listened to the news?
She, no, just for the second day, she did it.
So before, yeah, before I would have said something about an employee listening to the news, I would have seen what they produced. And if they produced something of quality while they're able to listen to the news, I would have said, by all means, if that makes you productive, go for it. But if they would have come back to me with something that wasn't of quality and it was not good work, then I would say, no, you can't listen to the news while you're doing this because obviously this is affecting your work. Yes. I can't study in the library. It's like the multitasking generation. Like, well, in my family, like, you know, when I was trying to study as a kid, the TV was on, my dad and my mom were talking, my siblings were running around playing with their video games and their phone, and I have to sit there. Absolutely, absolutely, and I know how to do it way efficiently, yeah.
Also, like, every time I went to my mom's office as a kid, like, I noticed that, like, employees and people always have music on or this on or whatever. She didn't really like the music.
Yeah,
People always,
true.
like, have their own gig going on in their office. Like, it's not just millennials, it's really not.
Valid, yes.
When you're mentioning the whole work-life balance and the merging, the erosion, is there any research on social media and like coworkers and that whole, just like what millennials think about that? Because I feel like it's a touchy thing.
What do you mean coworkers and social media?
Just like you said there was erosion, and
Yeah.
so, but then we often teach our young grads about making sure that their Facebook is like prepped for the job search. So once they are hired, like is there any research on kind of how millennials navigate that? Because if they're really open to share, but then coworkers are learning about that, you know, is there just any like trends for how millennials approach that?
I haven't done any research on that, but you want to say something?
We are pretty much very well aware and taught that your social media presence will be seen by everybody.
Yeah.
And if you're not, that's your problem. Yeah. Like, you did that too.
Most of what I shared when I was at an office was like the view from my desk, that kind of stuff. It wasn't like what we were doing, if that was top secret or that kind of stuff. They're pretty aware of the fine lines, I feel like, probably more so than Gen Z with the Snapchat generation. So
Maybe social media enough to have been burned at least once by
absolutely, exactly. Like burned in high school or younger. No problem. Any other questions? Yes? Definitely. Absolutely. I'm actually looking for a manager of customer service right now. So if any of you have customer service skills, please talk to me after. And I would like someone with experience that's older. So yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's startup environment. We're at a table. You know what? Yeah.
Feel about the employment agency. When they come and talk to me, they are asking about like $20,000 contract at the beginning of introducing some staff for me. You know what?
Like a recruiting agency.
Like 24/7. Like, in fact,
I think job shadowing through my platform is cheaper. So it's an easier way to source candidates for a much less cost. Like what Betagig charges for you to find a candidate off the platform is like not even close to what a recruiter would charge you. We're talking about 5% versus 25%. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Beta test your next gig. Yeah. Absolutely. So all we're doing is we're streamlining an existing process. So job shadowing is actually something that happens in the world today. And similar to the way that Airbnb streamlined couchsurfing, we are streamlining job shadowing. And so what that means is that users can sign on, and if your company's on the platform, they can browse by category and find the career, the millennials, and request to job shadow. You will see that request on your dashboard, and you can accept or decline it.
So companies pay to be part of your database then?
Exactly. So they'll be on the platform, and they can accept requests. And then it's free to offer job shadowing, so you only pay when you hire. So you can offer job shadowing all day long, and if you never find your person, it costs you nothing to do so. You only pay if you were to hire somebody, then you would.
If you want to hire 5%, you say?
Yeah,
5% of what?
the starting salary.
A yearly? Or
No, just that one time. Like if you hired that one person, it's just 5%.
5% of what?
The starting salary.
Monthly or 1 year?
Annually, yeah.
What if somebody said commission fees?
We can work that out, yeah, definitely.
We pay big dollars for recruiting companies to bring on young people who want to get into financial services like you got to do.
Right.
And we'll spend $3,000-$4,000 a candidate.
Well, imagine if you could just source your own. So our site, when you add a position, you designate the audience that you're looking to target. Like, all kinds of things that you can designate. So only those people can even request a job shadow. And then once you have requests, you can filter your requests further based on things that you're looking for. And then you can also read ratings and reviews on a person, be it their LinkedIn recommendations or, previous companies that they've job shadowed at that have written them a nice review or a negative one. And then in about a month, you should be able to see a 30-second video of them telling you why they think that they should job shadow at your company or be allowed to do so. So we're constantly thinking about ways. It's just basically a way for you to source your own candidates. And then, once you bring them in, you can really determine no or yes. Absolutely.
How big is your database of candidates and what sort of quality control do you do to make sure they're,
Right. So we do background check our candidates unless they are currently a student. At that point, we just use the university email to verify. Yeah, we do background checks though on it.
how extensive is your database?
Just to be a part of it as a company.
No, in terms of so I use recruiters a lot. So
Oh.
If I wanted to use your database to find
So, well, we're signing up people every day. We have about 1,000 right now, but I have a really high conversion rate, and I can get even more than that. For me, it's all about growing the marketplace in a very scaled and controlled way, because if I do one of these kinds of things, I'm in trouble. So I vary signups based on how many people I get interested.
You want quality people versus just numbers.
Right, exactly, and I also need the marketplace to match. So if I have 1,000 people willing to job shadow and 2 companies, that doesn't work. That's never gonna work.
So basically, more of the people you know, they are graduating from UCLA or all over the
It's all over LA, but UCLA is actually one of my clients. We'll be launching with them in the fall.
But UCLA does not have fashion business, right?
Fashion students, you mean? There's probably students that go to UCLA that are interested in fashion, but there's not a major for fashion.
They don't have a skill of fashion.
Unless they interned somewhere.
But we're working with other companies too now. I mean, other universities.
Well, yeah, we're working with other universities, community colleges, all across the board, all over LA. Yeah,
She's really a new job board. Listen to that.
thank you. Any other questions or comments? If you're too afraid to ask, you can come up to me afterwards as well. Yes, they will be provided to you. Absolutely.
Thank you, Nikki.
No problem.
Once again, thank you